Starbucks. And again, one of my favorite writers and favorite journalists is Sharon Zhang from Truthout. She is definitely a member of the All-Star team. Um, there's about 20 or 25 writers that are pretty incredible, and spot on
I'm a
most
fan
of the
of
time.
Truthout.
And it's not even necessarily Truthout specifically, because there are a lot of people at Truthout that I'm not a big fan of necessarily. But Sharon Zhang specifically, I can read a headline and tell you that it was written by Sharon Zhang. That's how good she is and how much she's a standout above most of the writers there. And again, they have a great writing staff. They have John Neffel. They've got William Rivers Pitt. They've got other members. And again, I know these lineups like I used to know baseball lineups. It's pretty amazing. How I just transferred my love of sports to a love of journalism and a love of news and a love of writers and outlets like this. Okay, so again, Sharon Zhang Truthout. Give her a follow at Zhang_Sharon on Twitter. You can share this article, but Seattle Starbucks workers, I buried the lead, have unanimously voted to form a union. So Starbucks unionization has been happening, and this is something that Reef and I have been covering basically since we started the show. One of the main focuses of How Do We Miss That has been labor and the organizing of labor against the bosses and against corporation. We've been covering strikes, Striketober and Strikevember, and we participated in the General Strike Summit. I was one of the first people back last summer to start calling for a trucker strike. And you saw what happened in Canada earlier this year. We are big fans and advocates for using the power of labor to bring corporations and the bosses to their knees and to get equal fair share pay, working conditions, and living wages for all workers, and respect and
Exactly.
and dignified treatment. I mean, some of the stuff. I mean, think about the Frito-Lay strike, for example, that happened this summer. And I'm frozen on the Starbucks thing. But even during the Frito-Lay strike, these guys were working 84-hour weekly shifts, 16-hour days, and they were required to do it. Basically, go home, sleep, eat, and come back 7 days a week and no days off. Well,
that's just so wrong.
To make Doritos and Fritos. Like, come on, man. So Starbucks.
I love my
Seattle.
Doritos, but not that much.
Oh
yeah.
No, we definitely have been boycotting Frito-Lay in this house for a while. I know they settled the strike, and we want to support the workers by actually having products that Frito-Lay can sell. But we definitely would look to support local companies that don't exploit workers nearly to that level if we can on our chip selection.
That is true. I have boycotted Starbucks.
So again, in the Broadway and Denny's store in Seattle, downtown Seattle, 9-0, the workers voted to become the 7th location with SEIU affiliated workers to unionize. So of course that's Seattle is Starbucks' backyard, and they just rehired Howard Schultz, their old CEO, who's also a notorious union buster. And again, Sharon's killer. All right. Broadway and Denny store filed to unionize is a popular location for corporate employees to visit on their way to work, located in Howard Schultz's home district, and only 10 minutes from HQ. So that's big. And while they've been using, like I said, aggressive union busting tactics in other parts of the country, it treated pro-union employees with much more respect. Well, that's good to hear. While they tried to union bust by singling out individual workers during the first weeks of their campaign, it stopped abruptly after a month, which was great. It was really jarring. It's pretty amazing. They just kind of gave up and were like, all right, you guys want to unionize? Fine. Because they realized that their customers are unhappy hearing that their workers are not able to have collective bargaining. And Starbucks treats their employees okay, but if all these people are voting to unionize, there's a reason why. So when you have the group and there's an entire process to go through and filing with the NLRB, in telling that you intend to, you have to get union cards and there's an entire process, like I said, and I'm just proud that these people are going through it, because statistics and studies have shown that collective bargaining against these corporations, workers end up treated better, paid better, with better benefits than workers that don't collectively bargain with an employee, with an employer, and with private employers. Okay, but Mesa and Memphis, almost all the organizers, they fired a bit of color. All right, and that's pretty interesting. So they're saying that there might even be a racial element to that, right?
It sounds like it.
Workers condemn Starbucks for union busting. Of course, there's a right side to history and a wrong side to history. And right now, Starbucks is on the wrong side of history. Can't agree with that more.
Yep.
Right.
Like Arkansas is a right to work state, so we're yeah, it's.
But still, nationally, you can still have unions, I believe. Even if it's a right to work state, there's still the ability, I think, to unionize in the state. I'm pretty sure that Amazon workers were talking about that, but I'll definitely look into that. But this is pretty interesting. Schultz is preparing to take over for Kevin Johnson as interim CEO, and workers have said that he's being brought in specifically because he's anti-union. All right. Several in locations and a roastery were unionized in the 80s, and then it was decertified in the 90s when he was running it. And then in 99, he described unionization as a personal affront to him and his leadership, because he's not a benevolent enough king that the workers need to organize against him. He sees it again as a personal insult, and that is just arrogant, obnoxious, and ridiculous at the same time. While he did help build a business, whatever, but he did it on the backs of all these workers, and there's plenty of Starbucks workers that would tell you that they were not necessarily taken care of. Okay, so in a letter to Schultz sent by Bernie Sanders, he called on them to stop union busting and obey the law. So again, they're still doing this right now. It's happening in Memphis. It happened in Buffalo. I mean, the Buffalo Starbucks, it was well documented, all the things that the corporation was doing to try to discourage them from unionizing. So good on Starbucks workers in Seattle. We encourage and want to see more of this. If the workers want to organize, okay, to take power back from management, okay, we're also fan of labor owning the means of production, and worker co-ops and different structures, stakeholder vested interest, 100%, and not specifically accountable to, where they're also sharing in profits, and their labor is actually getting them, they're participating in the gains that their labor is yielding. So